Welcome to Building My Legacy podcast. This podcast is designed for leaders and entrepreneurs who want to leave a legacy and will provide strategies that focus upon key elements for legacy creation, determining your desired impact and its benefit, increasing your legacy's reach by engaging key stakeholders, planning, prioritizing, and executing. Here's your host, Dr. Lois So.
Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with me today Liz daRosa. Liz is an interesting person because she's managed to traverse many different industries and been very successful with it. She has 20 years of experience supporting organizations as they pivot and maintain relevance in high growth, for high growth business. Her career highlights is that she has created presentations on 3 continents regarding aspects of the change that is taking place in the workplace today, and also in career development. She has published in peer-reviewed journals, regional journals, and has provided ghost content for the world of work, compliance issues, and leadership. She does a lot of work today in designing and executing strategies that improve team and organizational performance by incorporating compliance, diversity, and inclusion into all aspects of culture, from talent acquisition, training and development through succession planning. And right now, those are really huge issues as we look at how are we going to bring people back to the workforce, do some healing and integrating. So working past that diversity and inclusion and getting people to really embrace that is become an important aspect. So Liz, tell our audience your journey, how you got to where you are today. We'll start there.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. The journey is not unlike many others. You have a dream when you're growing up, and sometimes, that dream doesn't come true. And I wanted to be an attorney, and it didn't work out that way. So I pivoted and I was able to go into higher education, and I've had a great career in higher education. And about 7 years ago, I was laid off, and I know some people who are listening, most people have been there, right? You're in a great industry. You love your job. You love the people you're working with. You've got a lot of energy, and you're doing some great things with some really great people. And unfortunately, it just doesn't work out, right? And I know folks these days are having that because of, COVID. So I was, part of a workforce reduction, and I thought, what, I still want to teach, but let me pivot into something else, and that something else turned into digital marketing. And so I was able to start by providing career coaching in LinkedIn to individuals who were transitioning out of the military. And so not only did I have to learn the platform, right, I had to bring those coaching skills that I was providing to my staff in my position. So I was able to really, transition those skills. And I think that's one of the things that people, when they get, laid off or something happens, they think, oh my goodness, I've got to get that exact job. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen like that, right? We've got to be open, sometimes, especially as women, right? To be able to say, you know what, I have to be able to pivot. I need to transition into something else, see what else I can take those skills and be successful in. And so I had some great success, worked with some great individuals in their transition, and building my platform on LinkedIn. So I got to about 5,000 connections on LinkedIn, and I hit a wall. Because the individuals I was talking to do coaching, they wanted me to do coaching for free. And, while I would love to provide, all of my services for free, I'm not grant funded. So I figured, okay, this is the world telling me I need to make a little bit of a pivot. And so I was enjoying engaging with new connections on LinkedIn. And I figured, what, I'm going to continue to do that, but I'm going to explore the other major platforms and see what else I can do and offer to professionals and organizations. So I did. I taught myself Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest. And right now I've got 32,000 connections on Twitter, and overall, 57,000. And so as a result of that and going into the other platforms, I've been able to meet professionals in a variety of those verticals that you mentioned, and providing them with help with their professional branding, social media optimization. And so it's been great to be able to interact with so many different people that are just across the country, and in some cases in different parts of the world. So, and that's the thing, we hear so many negative things about social media, and trust me, if you look for it, it's definitely there. But my suggestion to folks when I work with them is, stay where your businesses, stay where you are an expert, and don't go looking for problems, right? Don't go searching out, any of those controversial topics, again, unless that's where your expertise lies.
Right.
And just focus and put out the positivity. And that's what I found has been very helpful in growing my network on really all of the platforms, is when you put out positivity. And this is even before COVID. People they're attracted to, the motivational quotes, the inspirational quotes, because we don't hear it enough in our real life, unfortunately. When you're calling up your best friend, you're talking to your neighbor, unfortunately, you're complaining about, the garbage didn't get picked up on time, or it's too cold, or, and sometimes when we're talking to folks, we do need to vent, right, as humans, and especially now. But I just find if the best tip I can give people for, social media is put out things that are positive. That's going to make you feel better. And that's also going to make other people say, you know what, she's really positive. He's really positive. I would like my brand to reflect that. And so then that helps with that attraction piece. So that's kind of how I got to where I am.
Isn't it amazing? I think you're right. People are hungry for positivity right now. You turn on the news, it's negative. You turn on social media often and you get barraged by negative comments. And so there is this overload, I think, that people are carrying of negative input. And so searching out that positive becomes so important, because otherwise your world does become negative, overwhelming, stressful, and depressing.
Right.
So what do you find as you work with people right now? What are their biggest challenges it's career development largely that you're working in still, is it? Or have you pivoted in other areas as well? Career development.
Sure. Sure. Well, I do an aspect of coaching for sure. And I coach individuals who are trying to grow their own business, and make that business viable or go to that next level. And so, that's a great thing to do, to work with them with their goals, because they know what they want to do. They just need somebody from the outside, right, to encourage and say, okay, let's make actionable steps. Right? Because it's easy to sit at home with your significant other or your family and say, oh my gosh, I have this dream. And they'll get excited with you, but they're not going to necessarily sit down with you and say, okay, what are the 20 steps we need and how are we going to get there? Right. And so that aspect, is a big part. But because, professionals that are in business development or talent acquisition or have their own companies, they realize more people are spending time on the internet.
Right.
They are saying, you know what, let's optimize the social media now, right? And get their branding down where it should be, get out there and start communicating and networking with individuals, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever platform or platforms make sense for their business. So they can actually have those conversations because, unfortunately, people, for example, in sales, who, 80 to 90% of their time before COVID was traveling, they're locked down. I mean, they literally are locked down. Yeah. And so they're a little paralyzed because they were used to actually, right, knocking on the doors.
Right.
And they don't have that. And so they, it's helping them pivot and say, okay, what's going to work for you now? Because, this is going to be around for, probably at least another 6 months or year, right? That we all need to adjust. And in order for them to be able to keep their jobs and be successful, they need to learn how to use, social media, to the best of their abilities.
What do you think are the biggest mistakes that you've seen people making as they've tried to develop their online space?
Sure. Well, it's as soon as they connect with somebody, try to sell them. And I don't mean,
Yes.
and not even in a having a conversation piece, because I don't mind that, right? As soon as we, connect, say, hey Liz, great to be connected with you. We're in the same industry or something like that. And really start off an authentic conversation. But what I see is, and we all think of it as spamming, right? Is that you get something and immediately they're like, you get this 4 paragraph, um, almost email from them in an instant message. And it says, okay, here's what I'm selling. And immediately, and even if it's a great product, a great service, you're going to lose people. And so, people don't understand that even though it's social media and we have instant access to each other, that we still are people on the other end. And so we need to take the time to build that relationship, which it just is, there's just different ways to do that on social media.
Right. And I think the hard thing, Liz, is being able to embrace the fact that it does not happen overnight. And, people, it's like when I used to coach young girls in middle school, they had this vision of, well, I'm going to be a rock star, I'll be a singer, and I'll be making millions, right? I'll be a football player and I'm going to make it, without the realization that, yes, a few people do, but those are the exceptions. And most people have to take a route which they dog, they work, they systematically nurture in order to get the result that they want. That's a hard realization to come to.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And especially because not everyone is familiar with, digital marketing and online. They feel that, well, they're sharing personal photos on Facebook and people are liking them, right? Or sharing them or whatever, but that's in the personal space. It's not the same way, right? In business, unfortunately.
Right.
And so it's harder to, create those messages that people want to share or read, quite honestly, right? And it's not everything that you put out there that people are going to, it's not going to resonate with everybody. And so it's really learning how to, refine that message. And really it's a long game. Even though you can, tweet or you can post, 10 messages, that doesn't mean that you're going to get all of those 10 messages to the people who it needs to get to immediately, because they've got a lot of other information that they're looking at. And because so many other people are posting at the same time, right? There's a lot of noise out there. And so it's really figuring out how you can be consistent and then share that message. And you have to have, inside of you have to push yourself, because you do get wrapped up in the, oh my gosh, I didn't get a lot of likes or a lot of shares or comments, because we're human, and I'd like to think that we've all kind of, gone past the middle school mentality, but unfortunately sometimes in social media we haven't, right? I mean, it's true, because you look, do I have the right lighting? How does my hair look? Do I need more makeup? Right? And that's just the human part of us, which, I mean, it's great when you can, you can do something and you can laugh at yourself, right? And you can post it and say, you know what, I did a podcast a couple weeks ago and I said so a lot, and I owned it, and I said, you know what, I'm not a speech coach. And I kind of laughed at myself and said, you know what, we're human and it happens, and you just have to say, you know what, it was a great experience. But it gave me a post to be able to put out there that was a real post,
Yes.
right? And so, those are really important to post as well. So we're not posting that perfect image of, what people think we might be, or that we're putting out there, this perfection, because we're not.
So something made you confident and comfortable with being able to do that. What gave you that sense of confidence? Because you made a big shift. For a lot of people, pivoting is difficult. So there's a courage that goes with it. And yet you were able to embrace confidence. So what brought you to that?
I've always had a voice. When I was young, my parents were extremely supportive, and they've always encouraged me to have a voice and that my voice should be heard. And so that gave me confidence. And then, of course, as you go along and you're in school and you get the A's or you get a degree, right? And that gives you that extra confidence. But, I've had some great opportunities, but I've also made the most of those opportunities. I didn't get in a position and say, you know what, I'm happy here, right? I was always thinking, what's next? How can I give more? And so I think that's, having a great support system definitely helps, especially as a female, as you're growing up. But then, you know what, you just have to believe in yourself, even in those moments, quite honestly, that you don't, because we all have those, and just say, you know what, and I've got a very supportive partner. And, anytime I'm having a bad day, he's just incredibly supportive. And so, it's nice to have that, but then it's also, I look at my successes and say, you know what, if I've done it in this industry, I can do it in this other industry, and take those skills. And you know what, and I do make mistakes, and I fall, and I say, okay, what did I learn from that? And I think, no matter where you're at and what part of your journey you're at, whether you've been laid off or you still have a job, but you don't want the job you have.
Right.
and it's just saying, you know what, that's okay. What did I learn from this experience, and how can I do something else and be a better person? And I think, that's extremely important, is that, people look outward sometimes too much and say, well, oh no, this is happening to me. People are being mean to me. This COVID, this, and no, you have to say, what am I doing? And so that's just kind of how I've kind of viewed, kind of that voice and that confidence.
Right. It's so easy, isn't it, to point outward? And
right, absolutely.
Because then you don't have to change. But the reality is nothing will change unless you start looking inwardly first.
Absolutely.
And that's what's hard. So for you, when you began your journey, what were the biggest things that you had to overcome in order to really go about this and to have the to know what to do, to have the courage to move ahead, to try things?
Sure, absolutely. Well, like I said, was part of a reduction in force, and so I said, you know what? Yeah, I mean, it was a situation I wouldn't have chosen at all, and so and I said, you know what? I want to do something else. And it was just, I wanted something that excited me, right? And if you think about it, anything new that you try, even if you don't stay with it, you tried it because you were excited. And so I was excited about it. And when I first started on LinkedIn, I had a blog. I was blogging all the time and posting it, and I was getting nothing. And I'm telling you, I was down a lot. And I just kept posting and posting and posting. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to get through. And I don't know why I kept pushing, but I'm like, you know what? Everything I've done, I've been successful at some point, right? And it takes longer sometimes when you're doing things, than others. And so I switched the message, and I switched how I was delivering it. And, I just kept pushing and pushing. And one of my words outside of, kind of having my own voice is just persistence. And so I've always just persisted. And I, just, making little tweaks here and there, because really, if you think about it, wherever you are, if you make little tweaks here and there, you're probably going to get to where you want to be. Right? Usually most of us don't need to make this huge life change or huge attitude shift. It's just, you know what, every day I'm going to be more positive, or every day I'm going to say hi to one more person, or try to bring a smile to somebody, because that makes a big difference, especially in these times, just going to the grocery store, because, we all have the masks on, and just saying hi to people, because you can't see if people are smiling, right? We lose a lot of those nonverbal cues these days, because we are so isolated. And so it's just being persistent and just making those little teeny tweaks. I mean, the tweaks make a huge difference because they add up.
Boy, you know what? It is so true. And I think what gets hard is you think, what do I tweak, right? Or it should work because I'm kind of mimicking somebody else's style without realizing it's got to be your own style, and then mimic your own style. And so it's finding your own voice. And you maybe had more ease in doing that because you had taught, and so you were used to helping people find a voice. But if somebody's looking to find their own voice, what would you suggest?
What you're passionate about.
Oh, your passion. Yeah.
And definitely go to that. And one of the first things that I started posting was obviously was about the career piece, because that's what I was doing, right? I was doing some career coaching, but I was also personally, I was running a lot. And I was running a lot in races and running a lot with my family. And so, everybody likes to see kids, right? And so the kids would be involved and they'd be in their stroller, right? And posting that, I did this race and I'm not a 5-minute miler. And I put, I'm a back of the packer. And I was just completely honest with, I'm never going to win a race, but just to get out there and do something that I love with my family, right? And so that piece of it, and I actually started getting traction.
Oh, interesting.
Because it was something I personally was passionate about, and I was showing pictures of myself and that were real, right? That
That's
didn't
real.
have the special lighting and things like that. And so people could relate to me as a person. And so, definitely going to your passion for sure, even if it's something that, if it's yoga or whatever sport it is, or, crafting or, anything that you're passionate about, find some way to integrate that. I just shared a picture on social media after I did a yoga class, and then I shared a success quote.
Oh.
And, and so still kind of sharing things from, my own personal journey that I'm passionate about every once in a while, right? Just to show, I am a real person, right?
Right.
And the other thing, when I sent you my pictures, you noticed I had sunglasses on, right? And that I'm not a person that's going to have a professional headshot, because that's just not me. I love to have the sunglasses and show where I live, because I live on an island. And so that's something that's unique. And so find something that is unique about who you are and embrace it. And so I frequently, I'm a guest on a webinar, and he laughs and he tells everybody, anytime I see Liz on this webinar without her sunglasses, it freaks me out, because she's supposed to have her sunglasses, and that sticks with him.
That's your
Because
persona.
that's my profile picture, and that's my personality, that I'm, different, and because I'm Liz. And I don't necessarily want to fit into, a box that, social media says that you need to. And that's something that, just embracing our uniqueness, because that will help you stand out and people will remember you.
What's interesting is you've used just the natural things that are around you to make you stand out and unique, like just where you live. And I think what we've often miss is what is unique about each of us, so that we talk about, we see other people as unique, but we don't always see ourselves in terms of what is unique about us. And I think that's one of the things social media requires.
Absolutely.
So, Liz, we have almost used up our time. And so, thoughts that you have, things that you want to leave with our audience about going on this journey, more comments that you would like to share.
Sure, absolutely. Just don't be afraid to be yourself. Wherever you're going to pivot, and, my dad gave me some great advice. He said, I can't tell you what to do, right? I was an adult. He goes, but, when you're making decisions in life, just keep moving.
Yeah.
If you go left and left doesn't work for you, go right. If right doesn't work for you, turn around, right? And try something. It's not a big deal if it doesn't work out, right? Maybe someday I'll go to law school and maybe I'll achieve this dream that I had eons ago, and maybe I won't, and that's okay, right? And so, just pivot, just tweak, just try. And, I would never think that I would be a runner at all. And I loved it. And it was because I tried it and it was something that I enjoyed doing. And I enjoyed doing it with people that I loved, right? And so do something with people that you love that maybe it's stepping out of your comfort zone. Try something different. Just if you don't know what makes you unique, because I know that is kind of hard for some of us to say that, ask people that are closest to you.
They're glad
just
to
say,
share.
what are 3 words you would use to describe me? And, 3 things that make me a unique friend, sister, mother, whatever. And
Great
have
idea.
them, share that reflection with you, because then you can look at everything and go, wow, I thought this was just ordinary. But really, other people think it's extraordinary. And then try leveraging that because they know the greatness that is in you, even if you don't think you do. Right.
Right.
And so, I would just ask people that you trust and then, give it a try. If people say you're going to be a great teacher, figure out a way to teach something to somebody. Right. And it doesn't have to be a paid position. Right. It can be something that you're helping, kids or, people who are, seniors, anything, so don't just think, well, it just has to be, what the world says is what a teacher is or what a coach is or, whatever that is. Explore that for yourself and make that your own.
I love that idea. Asking people 3 things that are unique about you. What a great idea. Liz, thank you so much for your time today and for being on our Building My Legacy podcast. And for those of you who are listening, we will have information about Liz in the show notes with some ways in which you can connect with her. If you would like further information about Liz, just let us know, and we will be glad to make sure you get that information. And also, please remember to visit our website, www.buildtomorrow.com, and our Facebook, IG, and YouTube channels, which are also buildtomorrow.com. Thank you so much, everybody. And Liz, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Building My Legacy podcast with Dr. Lois Sonstegard. To book your appointment with Dr. Sonstegard, visit www.buildtomorrow.com.